I want to speak to the women who look like they are coping on the outside, but inside they're absolutely exhausted. That was me. I was very, very burnt out in my career, in my life. I didn't even realise that burnout was an actual thing until I'd gone through it myself. I just thought it was a phrase that people used when they were tired. I'd become very, very controlling over my life, my career, and somewhere along the way just completely lost my identity. And I think I became somebody different because of the things that I'd gone through and the way that life had shaped me through certain experiences. So on the outside, it did look like everything was working, and that we had, this great life. But internally, I felt empty and actually really overwhelmed. And what changed for me wasn't some dramatic breakdown. It happened really quietly. I was showing up, I was doing all the same things, pushing, holding everything together as we do. But things just stopped happening slowly. The results weren't coming through the same. And I just started to have this nagging realization that things just weren't aligning with me anymore. I found myself asking a question that was nagging away at me no matter how many times I tried to ignore it. And that was, do I have the courage to step out in faith? Can I leave my whole life behind, this whole life that I've built, when I can't see what's on the other side, and especially when there's nothing there to replace it? And that process took months. It was months of wrestling, months of fear, months of trying to hold on whilst I knew I needed to let go. And eventually I did step out. When faith entered my life, it was in a way that I never expected. It came actually through my husband. He grew up in a Christian home, but because of his childhood, faith was really complicated for him. And that pain that he went through during his childhood deeply affected our marriage. There was mistrust, there was lies, there was infidelity, and we have separated on several occasions. And yet a few years later, we decided to move house to a new area, and he told me that he wanted to go and find a church, which was news to me because I didn't even know that God was on his radar. But a few weeks later, he asked me to go along with him just to check it out. And that is really where everything began for me. So if you're new here, my name is Danielle, and this is a space for women learning to live with faith in real life, not perfectly, but honestly. I want to be really open. I want to admit that I am still learning. I'm still breaking habits that once kept me feeling very, very safe. But they don't serve me anymore. So I know that I'm on that, sanctification process of letting go. But one thing I do know is that I can speak with grace and authority when I speak to women who feel silenced on the outside but are screaming on the inside, because I've been there. Women who have learned to cope, learned to survive, instead of being held and being able to speak what's really on their heart. And women who have become strong because they've had to. Learning who I belong to has changed everything for me. And when a woman knows who she belongs to, she stops negotiating her worth with other people. She stops chasing validation from people who were never meant to be in her life, were never meant to define the person that she truly is. She starts making decisions from peace and not panic. Freedom doesn't come from doing whatever you want. It comes from being anchored enough to choose what actually gives you life. If you've been watching this and you feel that you have been doing life on your own, I need you to hear this. You do not have to do this alone. There is another way, a way where your worth is not earned, where your pain does not define who you are, and where you are allowed to let go of anything that's ever happened and step into who you truly are. You are worthy. You always were. So if you feel drawn to walk in this journey alongside other women who are healing and learning together, then my free Rise community is linked below.